Welcome to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast, where insights, attitudes, and methods for success get illuminated. Learn what leaders and change workers have done and are doing now to create magnificent futures. We interview great guests who inspire you to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. Be sure you visit our website at self-helpcoaching.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, just relax as you listen. You can do something else, but be ready to make an important note. And let's get started.
The title of this interview is How to Honor Your Spirit. And we'll be talking about how to work with your spirit and find your life purpose. Pretty important things. My guest is Carolyn Coleridge. She is an LCSW, which is, of course, a legal certified social worker, which I love. I love psychologists and psychology, my favorite subject. She's a psychotherapist and an intuitive and a healer. She has been doing this work for 25 years. She worked at UCLA as an energetic healer and also works on the Insight Timer app as a meditation and universal life teacher. Now I got to come to a full stop with that. As I mentioned to you, and then I'll resume the bio after this interjection. My company, we're launching an app, Proficio, which is going to revolutionize self-help and personal development. And you're already in on the app game. It seems though, as an employee of this company called Insight.
Insight Timer, yes. Yeah.
Insight Timer, that's great. It's meditation and life teaching. That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's huge though. It's like 17 million. So it's a lot.
17 million subscribers.
Fantastic. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think so. Yeah, it's really high.
Real briefly, you got to tell me about that. So first, tell me how you got involved with them. And what you do and what the app is like. Real brief. I've got to know. The audience has to know.
Yeah, I used to be a meditation teacher at this place called The Den, and one of the clients that saw me there said, you should be on Insight Timer, and I'm like, what's that? And I knew about Headspace, Insight Timer. I think the top three are Headspace, Insight Timer, and Calm. So it's a meditation app. So I just applied and I just uploaded meditation, and very interesting how synchronicities work. This random guy randomly says, hey, I have great music. Do you want to use it for free on any app on Insight Timer? And then I was able to set it up. He downloaded it, uploaded it. And I put up several different meditations. And then after a year or so, I started teaching on there. And it's been pretty successful. I love doing it. And it's anytime I could just sign in. And it's a great experience and a great system. And so many people, like sometimes it's like 74 people meditating with me. And it's awesome.
That's great. So you interface with these people through the app and you lead them either in a meditation or in some course or class as a teacher.
Yes.
That's
I'll be
fantastic.
doing it tomorrow. Yeah. And I usually give like a little idea, like if it's a new moon or something like free your mind on July 4th. Yeah. And I just start teaching stuff.
That's great. Now, that more and more that situation has been coming on for the last 10 years or so. These apps, whether they be in meditation, therapy, and otherwise, I fantastic. It's the way of the world. It's all awesome. The app that I have coming out is completely automated, so there won't be the students or I call them clients, combination of clients, students won't deal with humans. They'll deal with a robotic total coach. That is totally custom and coaches them, that is totally customized to a psychological evaluation. It's going to be a game changer, but we still need humans. Okay. Carolyn is still necessary, but this digital way is just going to, and AI, and my app is quasi AI, not actual AI. And this is inevitable. Of course, we're in this digital revolution that's just going to get more and more. Of course, there's pros and cons to everything, right? One of my sayings that I'm fond of is that there's pros and cons to everything, even your own firing squad. Excuse me if it's too morose, but that's true. I mean, it's always a pro and con. And in this age that we're in, this internet age, this digital age, there's so many benefits that there are, like what you just described. But of course, people are isolating more though, and they're having less human connection. There's a quasi connection, but they're not an actual one. So we'll see how it plays out in the future. I'm hopeful for mankind, but I think that with people in the change work profession like you and I and others, that we'll keep the human race in check.
Absolutely. We just want people to sign in and connect to whatever it may be.
It's fantastic. It's this digital age and connecting with people on that level. And yes, not present in the room, but it's the next best thing, right? I have all the social skills, Carolyn, but I'm not a very social person. And because of the internet, I don't have to leave my house. I have Facebook, all the social media. I deal with people, I interact with people, so my social needs are met that way. My girlfriend can't stand it. She's like, Tony, get out of the house, do something. I'm like, I got the Netflix.
It's funny.
It's all good. Okay, thank you for that. Forgive me for that interruption, audience and Carolyn, but I had to deal with it as it arose. And finally, to finish up Carolyn's excellent resume, she does readings, healings, and spiritual counseling. I love all that. Great stuff.
Yep.
Carolyn, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you so much. Be in the universe. It's cool.
By the way, audience, Carolyn, of course, lived in California. She worked at UCLA, but she's out. Do you mind saying where? Saying where you want to? No. She's out in Connecticut now, so she's back into the true coast, back on the original coast, the East Coast.
Yes.
And I'm in Brooklyn, and she admitted she was born in Brooklyn. She went to Columbia. So, very good. We're all connected, and I love the whole 6 degrees of separation and all of that. So this is great. I love, I'm an NLP practitioner. I was a life coach. I don't work with people one-on-one now. I'm the head of a technological coaching company. It's tech startup striving to launch this app, as I've already said. But there's another side of that, which people might call woo-woo, some people energy. But, the more I've learned about that over the years, that energy, first of all, energy is really not woo-woo. It might be less scientific, it's less measured in terms of what people can see or definitive results, but energy is a very real thing. We are energy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to be said about energy, and what deeper things within us that are not so apparent, as opposed to like just a mere pattern. We all behave off of our patterns, but is there something more than just some habit that we learned? I think so.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There's something deeper there that's harder to put your finger on. And I think people like you in spiritual healing and counseling, that's exactly what you work with. Correct me if I'm wrong with that.
No, absolutely. That's a really good analogy, because I'm an energy healer, because as a therapist for years, I would just get drained. I was working in Manhattan. I was working on Wall Street. I was living in Brooklyn. So I took the D train down, and come back up.
D train is my train.
Yep. The D train. I knew you'd relate to that. Yeah. And I'd go to Manhattan and then working on Wall Street, and I was exhausted, and I was just even going to Macy's exhausted me. I was like, what is that? And my manager at the time, the partner at this EAP firm, says, oh, your energy, you're very sensitive to energy. I go, how do you know that? She goes, oh, that's why I hired you. Because I don't know about all the degrees and stuff, but I liked your vibe. And she had built up these wonderful accounts like Chase and Dean Witter and, like Skadden Arps and Smith Barney, these huge this is a woman on Wall Street, and we are employee assistance program. And she was all about energy and vibing and feeling energy. And a lot of times when you're working as a therapist, it is the energy in the room. What are you feeling? What are you bringing? And then also when I explain to people that working with your spirit is working with energy, they're like, well, what is spirit? And I said, think of ice, water, and steam. It's the same substance, but when ice gets, when water gets hot, becomes steam, and when it gets cold, it becomes ice. And it's like the steam is like your spirit, the ice is like your physical body, and the water is like your blood, etc. So they're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. So your spirit is very real. That's how I explain it to people. And then even when you're doing counseling of people who had trauma as a child, or they said, I feel like I married my dad. And they're like, oh, that's psychodynamic. It's not just that, it's energy. If you had a parent who was like a yeller, or a parent who was, like knocked out on the couch, it was sad. And then you're going to pick a partner that does the same thing because the energy is familiar. So
Right.
even in therapy, energy is really important to understand. So when I became an energy healer, and then I could explain to people about a vibe, and about an energy, they're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. So it kind of went hand in hand. It wasn't like opposed to each other. It actually correlated together, energy, therapy, mind, body, and soul.
Now, I loved your analogy about the spirit. And right now, I have a protege, and right now we're studying Marcus Aurelius's The Meditations, and he talks about the spirit and the soul quite frequently. And for the purposes of the book, and we're creating a course from it, I define, not in an atheistic way, but in a way that's easily accepted, the spirit of the soul, our top 5 values, the very top 5 values that we have. And when we operate thusly from those 5 top values, we're operating from our soul. That's my contention. And so when we're not, there's something's in the way of our soul manifesting or operating, all right? Our ego.
100%.
Oh, you concur with that. Great.
Oh yeah.
But
100%.
you, so that's just a statement, but you deal with the energy to get people to operate from those 5 values.
Yes. And I don't know what the values are, but I'm thinking
It's subjective. It's subjective.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. I feel like it's kind of like the soul. Like when you work for our higher consciousness, when you work from higher consciousness, then what it does is that everything of the universe will align with you. So when I was teaching in mental health, they say, I said, what about your spirit? Have you taken care of your soul? What are you doing? They just look at me like, what are you talking about? I'm depressed. And I said, well, what's the spirit? And then the spirit just gave this to me. So I created an acronym. So S. So how do you work with spirit? It's a functional thing. It's like a verb. So S, whenever you see synchronicity, and then signs, synchronistic signs, that's your spirit. So if you meet somebody, say, I want to be a teacher, and then someone says, hey, there's a school to be a teacher, you're like, wow, that was a really synchronicity. How did that happen? And that's a sign that you need to do it. So you spell it out. So S is spirit, right? So synchronicity and signs. P, whatever your purpose is, what you're passionate about. So if you're passionate about, I was always talking to people, analyzing them, helping them. And then that became my purpose. So P, the double P. So what you become passionate about, what you're passionate about is your purpose, and your purpose becomes your passion. So I have no problems talking to somebody. Somebody's like, you're doing an interview? It's like, this time at night. I said, oh, no, I'm passionate about this stuff, helping people grow, so that's SP. I, your spirit is intuition. So when you think of intuition, it's that inner voice, that inner knowing. So, and it's also inspirational, in spirit, inspirational. So whenever you are listen to have your intuition, the arms, the hair on the back of your neck standing up, or the hair on your arms, or that chills, that's your intuition. Listen to it, because that's the language of your spirit. So it kind of goes along. And then anything that inspires you, people love singing or dancing or watching games or whatever it may be. And that if it inspires you, like, oh, I love helping kids, then do that. That's inspiring you, because that's your spirit leading you. So right. Yeah.
And that's just another description of my description. Same thing. But yes, that's your highest values. You want to help children. That's your value, right? So it's the same thing, but it's just a different way of looking at it. Absolutely. And I'm not self-aggrandizing. I'm not saying, oh yeah, Tony, but some people need to understand things in different ways. There might be that's too woo-woo, or it's too scientific, or they're just too reluctant to even talk about this spirit. But really, there's different ways to talk about the same thing. And I contend that whether you're spiritual or not, whether you realize it or not, you are a spiritual being. That's what I contend.
100%. That's why we're out here in the universe. So, because seriously, and I agree 100% that I was talking to another healer, and she goes, I didn't have a degree, I didn't do this, I didn't do training. I said, well, don't be defensive about it. Everyone the universe put us in different places to help different people. It's 100%. Like when people are like, how can you work for this major HMO in LA? That's so dark. And I'm like, but God puts you in the dark. A light worker, somebody who brings the light, needs to be in the darkness, or they put you in secret places. Like I had a woman I worked with who was she was an anesthesiologist, and she used to pray over the medication, or somebody worked with the blood, used to pray over the blood pack. So everyone, there's universal, there's healing, different places. But I'm going to finish like my,
yes,
my
I interrupted you at intuition.
No. Yes, that's good. No, it was like a
I'm paying
coinciding of
attention,
this.
Carolyn.
You
Intuition.
are. You are. So yeah. And then SPIR. So renew. So your spirit needs to renew and regenerate itself. So again, this is how does the spirit function? So how do you renew and regenerate your spirit? And you need to, because this is your guiding force. This is your energy around you. This is your aura. You need to go to nature. You need to smudge yourself. And I would tell clients in mental health, like, go ahead and smudge, use essential oils, take a shower in salt water, salt H2O and water, like, neutralizes, the negative energy. So you got to like clear your field so then your intuition is heightened. Because when
For
you,
me, Carolyn,
yeah.
I live near Gravesend Bay.
Mhm.
I go and I love nature, and Brooklyn, you don't got much of it. You don't have much of a choice, but I do live close to the bay, Bay Shore. I go there frequently. It's the water. For me, the water is where I love all water. I don't care what kind of body of water it is, but the bay is connected to the harbor and the ocean. I love it. I just go and I climb over the rails and go where you're not supposed to go, because the closer I am, the better. It's just, the water it renews me, just like you're talking about.
Absolutely. And it's very like intuitive what we need. I can really get into the five. Well, I'm gonna let it like do a little tangent here, because the four elements are really important when you're talking about healing. And that's another thing I talked about in mental health, because people are like, oh, what's this woo-woo? What's she talking about? And I say, well, when you are depressed, you say, hey, I'm burnt out. Oh, I'm drained. I'm so exhausted, or I'm dead tired. And then I realized those are elements. So when you burn out, you need more fire. You need to light a candle or need to go to a sauna. When you're drained, you need, like you said, water, and you need to drink water or be by water, etc. And when you say, I'm exhausted, I'm so exhausted, you need air, meditation, take aerobics, breathing in like good energy, wind. And then when you say, I'm dead tired, you need earth, either crystals, which I love, or you need to like ground yourself, get next to a tree. So all these things that we use, these terms, they're also woo-woo. We say them every time: burnout, I'm dead tired, I'm drained, I'm exhausted. Those are elements. So
No, there's real
yeah.
significance. That reminds me of, there's a body of work called Metaphors of Movement. Is by a British NLP practitioner and hypnotherapist. And he contends, and I totally agree, is that the words that people use, when they speak subjectively, they're not just, then obviously a language is a tool of communication, but they are so reveal what's going on in the person's mind. And if a person says, I feel like I'm stuck, that's in their mind, that's what they are, stuck. So you can unstuck them, and using language that deals with stuckness. And you're saying is, okay, well, great. So besides that, you're talking about elements here that people talk about, probably just matter of factly, but they're telling you, or they're telling themselves, if they're listening to themselves, what's going on. If they're drained, they need water.
Yeah. We like normalize it. And also there's different places that support this. Like, where do you get all the four elements? The beach. You have the sun, which is the fire. You have the sand, which is the earth. You have the wind, which is the air, and you have the sand, which is the earth. And also, where else do you like can kind of like honor your spirit? A spa. When people are drained, they go to a spa. What's at a spa? There's always like a sauna. There's always like the steam room, which is air, and the sauna is heat. And then there's always water. They always even have cucumber, which is earth, or they always have flowers in water, which is earth and water. And they always have candles, which is fire. So they know that. Where else do you find these elements? You find them in churches or synagogues, or, they always have like the air with the incense. They have, again, flowers and water. They have the pews, which is earth, and they have the candles. So those elements naturally heal you. That's why we feel calm in as church or a synagogue, and in also like in a spa or going to the beach. So they're very healing. And then also when people are depressed in mental health, just go walk in the woods, go to nature, ground yourself in earth, go to the ocean. When I was in LA, go to the ocean, and now I'm on another coast, go to the ocean there. So that's a natural way to heal. And then, so after R and spirit, like, how does the spirit function? The other I is the spirit is intentional and is inventive. Okay. And I can change around those things. So maybe a different one: intelligent, and intentional. So what's the intelligence of spirit? That means if you trust your spirit, it knows better than actually your personality, because it's the soul, the part of your soul that brings you in, and the part of you that's going to take you out. So the intelligence of spirit is like, I was a therapist studying at Columbia. And then all of a sudden I started, seeing ghosts, hearing things, whatever. And my mother normalized it, and I started to go to the spiritual world. And it was years later that the universe knew, or God knew, that when I came at this time, we're having a crisis on the planet of like soul connection, soul deep. What's our purpose? Because the word actually coronavirus, corona means crown. That's the crown chakra. Everyone's chakra opened up, like what are we really here for? Clearing nature. So he knew like 25 years later, the spirit of the universe, that I would be able to do both, that I would do spiritual work and that. So that's the intelligence of spirit. When you trust that, it leads you to like a home run, home.
Yeah,
So,
that
and then
double-edged sword that you work with, those two basic modalities, is fantastic. I think it's great. You're not a one-trick pony by any means. You can come out the LCSW way, or you can come through the spiritual energy way. Or both. That's
right,
fantastic. Well, that's probably
right,
the
yes.
best.
Yes, and it's like the word psychic means of the soul, and psyche means of the mind. So there it is. It's the same word in different ways. And then, so that's the other I at the end of spirit, like how it's functional. And then T, what's the T stand for? You got to trust your spirit. Your spirit's always truthful. The truth of your spirit, if it says, don't go into that world, don't go to that door, don't go. If it says that I want you to do this, you got to trust what you feel inside, that it makes sense, that that's really who you are and that what you need to do, because you will be led with these synchronicity and signs. Follow that path, trust it. And like me, it led me to prosperity, healing. I was on CNN working out. Everything started working out when I trust the spirit. So that's my acronym.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's excellent. Those are wonderful words. I don't mean to diminish them in any way, but those are the key words, and they're extremely valuable. And that final one, trust, that's a critical thing. I happen to know someone who's paranoid, which is an anti-trust, okay, to use that term, and it destroys his life. And the opposite of that, or the inverse, trusting, and not blindly, not stupidly. Trust is best and intelligently given when it's earned, but have it. Don't when it's earned, don't forget about it or reduce it. That's regression.
Right.
Trusting yourself and trusting others, that's the way you build cooperation, both with the self and with others. And that's the way we truly be great things and accomplish great things, is through trust and cooperation. So, but the whole model you have is just fantastic. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a moment to hear. I'm a little slightly behind schedule, but you were just going on a wonderful tear there, and I had to let you conclude it. All right, so let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor, and we'll come right back with Carolyn Coleridge. Great stuff.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Profizio. What if there was a self-improvement program truly personalized to you, that knew and cared for you deeply? That whatever was going on in your life adapted for you perpetually. Visit www.profizio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can start a program that will always suit you, considering all the pressures and nuances of your life.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petroza. We're having a wonderful discussion with LCSW, psychotherapist, intuitive, and healer, Carolyn Coleridge. Great stuff. She just spoke about her model, the SPIRIT model, which is an acronym with each one has multiple keywords. Great stuff. Just walking around with that knowledge, it can be very helpful. Can be very helpful to a person, no doubt. But if you can really learn about that, especially as introspection or as in an application, undoubtedly that right there was extremely valuable. But let me get to a very important question: how do you honor your spirit?
That's a beautiful question. And that's the name of my book, Honor Your Spirit. That's the name of my book. It's something that, just using that acronym I did before, you have to do it regularly. Like when I lived in LA, I realized people were honoring celebrities like right and left. And I was like, wow, they're really honoring the, like, and it's funny because they're playing makeup. Go ahead.
Don't get me started on celebrity culture. Oh my God. There's a lot of problems with our society and culture, and that's at the heart of it. This celebrity culture, this celebrity praising is just so idiotic. It's so vacuous as the depth of a puddle. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I just had to add that.
Yeah. And I got into, because I felt like, so many people that were in mental health, they couldn't ever attain some of these things that they looked at or watched. And it wasn't based in reality, it was based on illusion,
Yes.
And it's a big illusionary energy in LA. And there's also I think it's the Neptune line going through LA, which Neptune is the planet of illusion. So I was just like, well, people need to honor themselves, make yourself the queen, make yourself the star, make yourself the high being. Like, you came here as a divine. I believe everyone has a divine spark in them, and everyone, has abilities and gifts. I believe everyone comes with gifts, and those gifts have to be opened up. Whenever somebody gives you a present, you don't just look at it. You open up the gift. And then when you open up the gift, what happens is that the world will change. And that's why I want people to listen to their spirit and say, what do you feel drawn to? What do you feel pulled to? When you do what you love, like that book says, Marcia Sinitar, your money will follow. And I was telling people that if you listen to, I talk about universal wisdom a lot, and the universe actually provides us with prosperity. And one of the elements is water, because when you think of water, water is in the flow. So if you're in the flow of your life, everything kind of flows together. And you think of the word, like money is in a bank. And, you put money in a bank, and then you think of riverbank, that's water. You think that there's a currency, like in Wall Street, they always talked about the currency. Water is a current, so the currency of money. So, and then you think of, well, where does money come from? I believe I did this years ago and said, I'm going to work for the universe and let everything else fall into place. So the universe is the source, or God or universe, whatever we call it. So money source, God source, income source, same word. So if you go with what you're supposed to do, if you honor your spirit, listen to your purpose, your passion, and follow that faith and trust, and just go with what you're supposed to do, open your gifts, that's how you listen to your spirit. That's how you honor it. And because there's a co-creative process with universal wisdom and knowledge of abundance, like look at all the stars around us in the world, then what happens is that you will become abundant, and that's how you'll feel good inside and healed. You'll start healing yourself when you do what you're here to truly do as a soul.
Absolutely. When we talk to ourselves, a lot of people with great misunderstandings, will give that some sort of stigma. That's absolutely normal and natural to talk with yourself. It's just when you talk with yourself and you're troubled by it, then it's an issue. I mean, that might be, schizophrenia or something like that. But talking with yourself is completely natural and a part of thinking and being a human. And we should listen to ourselves. That is a dialogue with you could call it another part of yourself. You could call it yourself. You can call it spirit. You can call it whatever you want. The term are just semantics. The essence is there's a communication going on, and when there's communication, it's best to listen. Mm-hmm. It's best to listen to get a good communication.
Yes. And I feel like absolutely listening to your inner voice. And I think thoughts and words are very powerful. Like what you put out there does come back. It's almost like a universal, like wisdom. And then also I feel like your spirit speaks to you through intuition, and it speaks through the universe. How is that? Like you ask for a sign and you might get a sign. You might see the number 1111 all the time. And you look it up and it means opening up, 1111, opening up to a new frequency. You might see a certain totem animal. I saw an opossum and I was like, oh, what's an opossum? What's it? And I saw another one. I'm like, that's weird. I looked it up and I was trying to bring in spirituality to mental health. And opossum represents to stay quiet and play dead until it's safe. So I waited until I met the right person, this older woman from Manhattan, and she said, oh, I love that spiritual stuff you do. And you do meditation today. I teach mindfulness. It's very hard to get a mindfulness, job in this clinic. And we just started talking and schmoozing together. And then she was like 70. She goes, hey, by the way, I'm going to be leaving. I love what you talk about. I'm going to give you my groups. So I had to play dead until I met her. I didn't know she was into that. She saw a crystal in my office and said, oh, I'm into crystals. I'm a healer. Nobody knows. And then we just coincided. So that was a synchronicity in the sign. So I think when you really start, like trusting yourself, honoring yourself, listening to your wisdom, my wisdom says, put a rock in your room, put a chakra chart up in your psychotherapy room. And it attracted the right people at the right time to give me the right path into that clinic.
Most people are listening to this right now. I'm holding up a crystal pyramid. I'm very into pyramids and I like crystals. Now, I'm not a woo-woo person, but I like crystals. I like minerals. I like figures and things that I can either put some significance on, no matter how insignificant or not, because I like them and I get something from them. That's a very good thing. I just did a little mini video on social media about how I have these little things on my desk and throughout my office, like there's a little statue of Socrates. There's a little statue of the Empire State Building where I'm going to have an office. Nice. And I visualize it. So it's a 3D vision board, if you will. But pyramids, and I have these. I'm very into pyramids. Whether a person can, buys into it, I don't say that in any sort of disparaging way. That there's some force of power that's external or not, doesn't matter, because really we manifest what's within us, right? We create our outer world from our inner world. So if we want great things, to want to do great things, putting little things out to help have that achievement or have that being is a good thing to do. Just not rely on it, because you got to take action. You got to be strategic. You got to learn.
Absolutely. Can I tell you a secret about crystals though? I love them. Okay, the secret about crystals is that crystals are in cell phones. They're in computers. I know you're into the AI and stuff like that. Good stuff. And then also we have crystalline substance in our bodies. Your mother was a chemistry teacher, so we have little crystal substances. So the belief in the woo-woo community, and you buy it or not, is that the crystals activate, because usually you pick a crystal and it's like almost something you need. And it's like, and you look up the qualities and it's almost very similar. And like, how does that happen? Because they say that crystals communicate with each other. That sounds weird, but how do cell phones work? They work with crystals. That's how texts work. They're crystalline substance in the cell phones that go from one to the other. So they're saying there's crystalline substance in us that they kind of communicate. Just putting that out there. I don't dispute that, and that was very illuminating. I appreciate that for me and the audience. And it's, as I was really an essence of my point. Communication happens on practically infinite levels. Yes.
Both in our mind. It's just like I tell people, I'm a coach and all that, or even in my own relationships. The brain, we all love our brain, but the brain is just an organ that's in our skull. That's not what's in charge. The mind is what's in charge. People think their brains are. No, it's just an organ like any other organ, a very important one. It's the thinking organ, but it's not the only one. The rest of our neurology thinks as well, differently, but it's part of the same system. But the mind is what's in charge. If we assert the natural authority of the mind over the brain, there's so many components, so many levels and nuances and connection into the universe, both as an antenna and as a transmitter. And if you can start getting in touch or into a greater grasp or a greater communication, the better off you are. And I've seen 100%. This. Yeah, I've seen this as a coach. I see this in my own anecdotal experience and friends. By the way, you mentioned Neptune. On my desk right here is oh, she got alarmed. Is Mezzalina. I have a cat named Neptune. That's her brother. Mezzalina, come here, Mezzy. Look at this one.
Oh, that's cute. Just like my cat.
For those who can't see, I'm holding a black cat named Mezzalina.
Oh, it's cute. Oh, she's beautiful. Yoda, come here. I'm going to try to get Yoda over here. Yoda. Here she comes. My cat looks exactly like it, so she's fuzzier. That's a beautiful cat.
I've got two black cats. I got
Oh,
Mezzalina here, and I have Ducitor, it's a Latin name. Well, Mezzalina is a Roman name. Ducitor, which means led by God. That one's a stray. All of them, all my cats are rescues. I rescued them. That Ducitor I saw in my backyard, looking up at the window, crying to save her own life. And I saved her. I brought her to the vet. The vet said she's a goner. She's going to die. But he had a total, that's a beauty. She got longer hairs than mine one.
Yes,
everyone, you gotta go to the YouTube to check out Carolyn and I's cats. So you got two great black cats. And Ducitor means led by God. I believe God led this cat for the cat to be saved, and for me to adopt her. And the vet said the cat was definitely going to die. All her vitals were fatal, but the cat had a complete recovery. And is so grateful to me. She's the only. I have ferals that won't touch me that I've adopted because they're feral, but this was a stray, and this one loves to sleep next to me because she knows I saved her life. And I guess, and I love cats. I love animals, all animals, but I'm really a dog guy, Carolyn. But now I have 6 cats, all rescues, but one just died recently, and it was really interesting how affected I was. It was my least favorite cat, and I was still crying all day.
And it's funny because you say you're not into Christmas, but you got black cats. You're kind of a wizard in a way.
I love it. And I love wizardry. People can be wizard-like, and they can call themselves wizard, and not on a ridiculous level. Of course, people want to do that. That's fine, but in a way that we can manifest magic. And it's just a word, but just that. What we live in is completely created. Besides the natural stuff, the organisms, the elements you described, everything else is created by men and women, our whole civilization. And they dreamed it. They literally dreamed it into existence with their hands. It came from their mind and their spirit, and then they put it into their hands and their mouths, and they created it. I'm in my home office here in Brooklyn. The entire thing was created by other people that dreamed this into existence. Anyone can dream what they want into existence with hard work and persistence, but it's all a kind of magic, and there's different kinds. So no,
I like what you're talking about, because you were alluding to this before. It's kind of quantum physics. It's actually proven now. There's a great movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? And quantum physics is believing what Einstein was pushing out, that if you focus on something, you actually can create that outcome. That our energy actually can, help things happen. And I love the word creation, because I just opened up an office in Bloomfield called Conscious Creations, and I have a podcast on that. But it's basically about that we can create what we want through thoughts, words, and deeds. When we put it out there, it comes back, looking for the signs of synchronicity, and co-create with spirit. And that's, to me, is just our soul. It's our higher self. I really believe in that.
Absolutely. And by the way, listeners, Einstein, who's highly regarded to be the greatest scientist of all time, perhaps it's arguable, but he said that knowledge is lesser important than imagination. Imagination is the critical thing. With that, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor, and we'll come right back with the vital conversation we're having with Carolyn Coleridge.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Perficio. People value all sorts of things, but Benjamin Franklin teaches us that the most valuable thing we have is time. With it, we can have practically anything. Visit www.perficio.io, that's PERFICIO.io, where you can truly learn how to value time and have that instilled in you so that you can best use time to work for you.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petrozo. We're here with the fantastic Carolyn Coleridge. I got to say, I'm delighted with this discussion, Carolyn.
It's awesome.
It's really quite organic. I think it's very interesting, valuable, and entertaining. Now, that's just my view, but I hope if just one other person agrees other than you, Carolyn, then I'm happy.
Yeah, I think if we could just make that spark in everyone and get something out of it, I think we're doing it. I think we really are.
I'm really enjoying this. I'm delighted. Thank you very much for coming on once again. How do you clear your energy field?
Oh, I love that question. Yeah, as an energy healer, I got into healing because I got, like I mentioned before, I got really drained. And why is clearing your energy important? Is because I believe your spirit is your guiding force. That's your intuition. That's part of your soul. And you can clean it many ways. I mentioned before, like smudging. And actually, there's a Harvard study out there that smudging actually helps. Again, with smudging, using sage, what you do is light the sage, and then you
I
put it
love it.
around your energy
I
field.
love sage. I burn sage. I just love the smell of it. I just love it.
Nature, but again, like those things I said before, it has the 4 elements. So when you light sage or fire, sage is earth, the wind is the air, the smoke that comes up, and then you put out with water. Those 4 elements, tired, burnt out, exhausted, dead tired, and and exhausted, dead tired, and drained. Those are the elements that are in sage. So it naturally actually reduces anxiety and depression, and it actually releases serotonin and endorphins. So sage is a natural healer. So when I was working at the intensive outpatient program, and people used to walk back we make them do walks, and I said to the other therapist, can I smudge them? They're like, sure. So we started smudging them.
So, wait, just
Yes.
describe what smudging is.
Okay, thank you. So smudging is like you light the sage, and then you let the smoke go up and make sure it's very smoky. So it turns off your fire alarm, turns on your fire alarm. But then you can go outside, but then you put it around, like you kind of put it around your energy field, which is like your crown, your head, around your third eye, your stomach, your back, your legs. It's like you're clearing the smut that you get connected to. There's a lot of empaths in the world. A lot of empaths are probably coaches or therapists or doctors or healers, so where you absorb people's crap, you feel it. Like if you keep thinking about somebody all the time after a fight or whatever, or just annoying, they probably like slimed you. They left their energy imprint on you. So there's ways that you can get rid of that energy imprint, and that's through smudging. Palo Santo's good, using essential oils, taking a saltwater bath, and then also just going in nature. 2 hours of nature sounds can help activate 658 DNA healing segments within our body. I used to hand out this flyer all the time. Just
Wow.
2 hours of nature sound, hearing birds, water, crows, the sound of branches underneath you. We have natural healing abilities within us that it activates,
Wow.
within us. So in like grounding, just walking on the earth. There's a movie called Earthing.
I believe this.
Yeah.
I talked about how we live in a civilization that's been created, and it's awesome, but it also removes us from nature, and there's a cost to that.
100%. They said that everything got so much better during COVID. I mean, God, it was a horrible experience, but like the plant community did so much better. The smog went down like thousands percent. I don't know the statistics, but yes, when a lot of people like will sit, like we're in mental health and we're sitting in these rooms with fluorescent lights and everyone's getting depressed. And that's why they made them go walk. This one therapist created walk and talk. You walk and you talk about your problems. When they came back, I smudged them. And so many patients came up to me over the weekend. They'd see me and they said, oh my God, I haven't slept in weeks. I finally was able to sleep. I was like, because you're like sleeping in dirty sheets when you constantly have the same energy that I'm depressed. I'm not gonna get better. I'm sad. I'm miserable. They might be justified, may have trauma or abuse, whatever, but you got to clean it. You got to clean your pillows. You got to clean your sheets. You got to get out in nature. Just take a walk. And if you can't walk, just walk slowly or whatever it may be. Get in some DNA of the sun if you can be in the sun. You got to get
all
into
of this.
nature.
All of this, I must say, resonates as extremely valid. It
100%.
sounds like insignificant or even, like you're just saying stuff. No, all of it sounds extremely valid. All of it, not. I mean, everything you said, because I in my own anecdotal experience, knowing how things were or have been, knowing that there were little changes that I wouldn't make, and I was like stuck or resistant or on a treadmill, not making progress. Where when I made little changes, like just changing that linen, changing those sheets, having a fresh bed, and then having a better sleep, or better rising in the morning. Yeah, this resonates quite valid.
Yes, and honor your spirits also. Thank you for reminding me about the sleeping dreams. Pay attention to your dreams. I call your dreams your in-house psychotherapist. If you get a good dream analyzer, it can give you the answer to what is going through. If you wake up at 3:30, that's like there's something, that's the apex of your dream that you want to work through. If you wake up at 4 a.m., that's usually the holy hour. That's when people, they go to yoga retreats, connect to God. So you have to like to connect to that sacred time. So I say, when you're waking up at 4, that's sacred. Journal, write, ask God for a message, find something that's going on. But I feel like that, we have a natural ability to self-heal that we have, negated, like,
Yes.
nature, sound, music, being like hearing a kid cry, like laugh, and, dolphin sounds. There's so many natural ways to heal. And these are
Carolyn,
all, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's great stuff, and I'm going to compliment what you said. I contend, and I'm certainly not the only one, that society is way over medicated, way drugged out. And listen, I say, there's a need for drugs. Drugs do a lot of not just good but great stuff, save people's lives. But society is way over drugged, way over medicated. It's way too dependent on it. And even now a new study has come out that says that antidepressants aren't as great as the industry claimed they were, and the field of psychology, that there were, that serotonin may not have been the issue at all, and so, and listen, I don't have to repeat anything I said, but you're talking about all natural things. And I am agreeing with you. Getting that, renewing, getting into nature, communicating with yourself in the universe, doing little things, seemingly little things that have big payoffs or an accumulative payoff. Those are the things, doing those things, before resorting to drugs, I think is a very sensible and intelligent sequence of improving yourself, of dealing with issues.
And like one thing, I'm really into essential oils because it helped me so much.
I use them too. I put them on. I haven't
Yeah.
in a while, but just to smell them, peppermint, just to smell them, it's great.
The quickest way to change an emotion is through smell. So the part of our brain where smell lies, the part of our brain where emotions lies, are right next to each other. So when I did presentations in intensive outpatient programs, I would give them smell like jasmine, smell lavender. How do you feel? And immediately they're like, wow, I feel better. What is that? They're like, you're sniffing, it's like it's crack. I'm like, this is just jasmine, and then what's interesting is that rose, what does rose do? Sometimes I would get rose water. Rose opens your heart. So that's why they give roses on Valentine's Day, because it opens a person's heart. So a lot of times I just have people who are depressed and sad just smell roses, because guess what? In a lot of agrarian societies, when people were depressed, what would they, not depressed, a lot of them weren't depressed, but when people we're going to dinner. So they would walk out in the fields through the lavender, through the jasmine, the gardenias, and then get the water and bring it back. That would ground them. That would heal them. There was a really great article about some people in Uganda, and they had a lot of, wars over there. And I had a Ugandan patient, and it was funny because the people were in there, they sent, as compassionate, they sent therapists there to help the people with all the killings in the war. But the Ugandan people it was just kind of funny. I'm not saying that some of the stuff didn't work, but they were like, well, we were like, why are we in a little room talking to a person? Get us out in the sun, give us some drums, and let us be in community. That's how we heal. Thank you very much. And my client and I,
by the way, you said give us some drums, not drums.
Yeah, no, drums, D-R-U-M, boom, 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 boom.
Okay, yeah.
So because that's how they naturally healed. Was they got some drums, the community got together, and they said just being in a little room was just like depressing. And the sun. Right. The sun that has D, vitamin D helps with depression. And it was just like, they're like, oh yeah, that's Absolutely. Sweet. They're like, So they would just like get through whatever they little did, but they said, no, we need to be out. And actually dancing helps, it's really large in the Black communities and a lot of communities, but it helps to clear your energy. That's why people go to clubs. They're clearing off the energy within them. That's why there's trance dancing and dancing. It clears. So a way to honor your spirit, dance under the sunlight.
There's nothing like movement and synchronizing with another or others. That's just even better. That's great stuff.
Exactly. Because guess what? It's a universe and verse is a song. So that's why music also heals us. Verse is a song, unified field, unified music. I never
realized that. I never realized that. Yeah, music is I'm a linguist too, so
yeah. It's a lot of stuff is right in front of us, and we don't even realize it's like universe. That's why music is like a universal language, and laughter.
Great stuff. Let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor, and we'll come right back with the wonderful Carolyn Coleridge.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Proficio. Do you like learning by yourself or with others? What if you could do both at the same time? Visit www.proficio.io. That's proficio.io, where you can learn in the environment that suits you as you choose.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petroza. We're having a fantastic discussion with Carolyn Coleridge. And now I'm going to get to my next question. I talked about this modern age. What is the Aquarian age and co-creation? Talk about that, Carolyn.
Thank you. The moon is in the 7th house. Jupiter rises. So the Aquarian age, where people are sitting we've been in it for a while, but I really think it helped 2012, December 21st, 2012. Remember 2012, they said everything was going to die and everything would be horrible. There's a great movie about it. It was so dramatic. But they said, the Mayans allegedly said it was the end of time. But as I interpret it, it's the end of time as we know it. And you know what's really interesting? They believe civilization started probably in Ethiopia. Now, Ethiopia is on a 13-month calendar. Now, Zinterbill 13 is supposed to be a negative number. It's actually a positive number. Why?
Carolyn, I got to tell you something. I was born on Friday the 13th. True story.
See? And you're magical. That's why you're Merlin. It's magical. Yes. Because 13 is a positive number, because guess how many full moons we have? 13. And sometimes they wrapped it around, they turned it around to make it negative, because during the full moon, people get lunar. That's where you get the word lunatic from. People go crazy. So there's a lot of the reason, but they made 13 negative, but it's actually a very positive number, because 1 + 3 is 4, and that's the elements. Those are the directions. It's 4 directions, and it's very powerful. And it's also the foundation of life, of a table, So, so the Aquarian age was after they said, the end of the Mayan calendar was when there's going to be no time. People thought, that meant that time was just falling away. And there's a great, brilliant man. He passed on right before 2012. His name is Jose Arguelles, Arguelles. He wrote this book called The Mayan Factor, I believe it's called. And he said he was Mexican and German. And he said that he created Earth Day with other people. He's the founder of Earth Day, yes. And he had a download in Mexico, and he wrote this book, and he said people didn't understand what he meant. And he wrote something called the Law of Time, a couple different things I'm going to say. So Law of Time is basically that when we go away from the power and the rhythm of nature, the nature kind of goes against us. We have to honor nature and its cycles and its teaching. That's one. But he also is saying that the end of time is that when we get off of, this is my interpretation of what he wrote, it's because he was a Princeton professor. He's a brilliant guy. He's not well known, but he's kind of the grandfather of the Mayan prophecies in many ways. But and I met him, and my God, it was powerful. But it's a whole nother story. I met him at the Bodhi tree in LA. So, but that when we go off of the nature, it won't work with us, but also that we have to honor nature, and nature will honor us and work with us. But he said the end of time is like when you there is no time when you're doing what you love. So when you do what you love, like I could do another podcast, I could do this, I could do that, I could be I was working with my crystals for hours, I could coach people for hours, or therapy, because you have to make boundaries, but because I love helping and enlightening. So he said when you do what you love, it's going to feel like there's no time.
It's so true.
And it's the heart. So what we did, the Mayan calendar, 26,000 years, we went back to the heart center of the universe. And if you look at it in the Hubble telescope, it looks like a yin yang symbol. So it's a balance of the male and female energy, the yin yang. The male is the active, the female is the receptive, and you balance it together. You need the assertive, you need the divine masculine, we need the divine feminine. Together, we create harmony, not one over the other. So that was the end of time, ends of time. So that brought in the Aquarian age. So the Aquarian age is a time of creating with the universe. The Piscean age was like Jesus with, during the Catholic, they have the fish, Jesus says, do this and da, da, da. The Aquarian age is we're co-creating with the universe. We're saying asking and receiving, ask and receive. The sun goes up and down. That's the yin yang. The waves go out and comes back. The receptive and the active principle togetger. That's what we're in.
I love it. It's great. And I'm going to say something that was great. It was very illuminating. Thank you. I'm going to say this, and we're not going to go off on a tangent, because we're going over time, because this is such a wonderful, organic, great discussion that just just flows wonderfully that, you know, I just want to keep going. I haven't even got to other questions yet. But I want to say this, that I believe in reincarnation, even though I was raised Catholic Christian, and I still consider myself a Christian, but not a conventional one. I believe in reincarnation, and I came to believe in reincarnation by no dogma, just completely naturally. And one of the reasons, one reason is because I believe that the universe is self-organizing, and that will correct all the suffering that goes on in the world, especially with children. They'll get another life and get to suffer less. But in my own story, and I'm not going to get into the whole story because I don't want to do that here, is that I believe I was a Mayan 1,500 years ago. And I came to believe that because I went out and visited Tulum, which is the only Mayan ruin on the ocean. All the rest are inland. And I fainted once I went there. I didn't lose consciousness, and on the ground I had no energy to get up. I saw the whole place as it was 1,500 years ago. It was blew me away. And I'm not going to get into the whole story because we got more to talk about. But I've come to believe in reincarnation on my own, and through circumstances and knowledge. And it's awesome stuff. Great stuff. That was great. I really appreciate that.
And let me just say one thing about a pyramid that Jose Arguelles went to. I can't say it right. In Mexico, Teotihuacan, Teotihuacan.
Yeah, it's hard to
pyramid.
I know you.
Yeah, and that's where he got his download at age 14, and then years later wrote the Mayan prophecy or the Mayan, and then he created Earth Day with others. So because he knew that we're going to ruin the Earth through Earth.
We're doing a good job of it.
And
How do you create with the universe, Carolyn?
Yeah. So, and a lot of this information I'm getting, all these threads, together, is universal knowledge. Like things are right in front of me, and then the universe will just give it to me to help break it down to people. But what I do is I use that active principle, and active and receptive. I ask, like I say, what should I, what universe, what should I do? Now around 37, I had a little near death. I almost died in a hospital, and part of that medication problem you're talking about. And I almost died, even though I worked in hospital for years. And I went to the other side briefly. And I said, the other side,
near death experience. You
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was dying in the hospital. I didn't die. I was dying. All my blood was out of my body. And I looked out and I just saw stars, just like where we are right now. I just saw all these stars, and there was this little guy there just standing there.
Everybody's listening. If you go to YouTube, you can see that Carolyn and I have cosmos backgrounds. We're in outer space. That's what you meant before. Go on.
Right. And so, and then what happened is I saw this little guy that looked like a court jester, and he had this weird thing sitting next to me. He told me to put my hand on it, and it kind of played my life over. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And I realized at 37, I hadn't done anything. It was like, wow, it's in my book, Honor Your Spirit. But I was like in kindergarten.
What's the name of your book again? We'll get into that.
Yeah, Honor Your Spirit.
Honor Your Spirit.
Honor Your Spirit. Yeah, it's my story about all this stuff, putting together therapy and spirituality and healing. So, and
when I saw this jester.
Yeah, court jester, my whole life played in front of me. And
it said, Carolyn, you haven't done anything. And it pissed you off.
I know. I wasn't really angry. I was sad. I was like, oh no, I can't leave now. I said, I felt like I was in kindergarten. I was 37. I thought I worked so hard, years in hospitals, helping people, therapy, got my master's. I said, I hadn't done anything. And I was like, how did that work? So I saw a light over there, and I was like, oh, what's that? And they're like, no. So and then I saw the ending. If I left, then it wouldn't have been, it was almost like, being studying for a science exam or a math exam and having all the class, and then didn't take and they're like, okay, you get an F. It's like, no, I'm going to take the test. I'm going to finish. So I said, well, wait a minute, before I leave, can I see God? And what happened is that the universe just started talking to me. And I was like, God was everything. He was every energy, every thought, every feeling, every hair on someone's head was God. Like everyone's connected. Like we're all living in his field. And I was like, whoa, what? This is weird. So after that, when I came back and there was no time, I could see the past, the present, the future. Not as strong now, but it was very strong there. I close my eyes, see the past, close my eyes, see the present, close my eyes, see the future. then I realized that like we're all creating our thoughts through what I thought. If I thought something would happen, if I thought something would happen, like everything sped up really, really, really quickly. And I had like, 360-degree like peripheral vision. I could see everything. So I was just like, wow, this is so powerful. So what happened is I had to, I just said, well, I need to ask the universe, what's my next step? What do I do? What do I, what's my next, thing? And I just did this dialogue back and forth with universe, that it was just like it's like a wave, you put something out, it comes back. I said, what's my next step? And God says, I want you to work for me. And I'm like, what? I heard this like, I want you to work for me. So and then I said, okay. He goes, the pay is good, the work is steady, and your time and benefits are out of this world. And I said, okay. And there was a sense of humor with the universe. And then I just keep asking all these questions. I keep asking, what is this? Or what should I do with my job? Move back home. Like, what? And I started seeing all these numbers, my age everywhere, and, living at home. And I kept meeting people from Connecticut, of all places, where I grew up. I'm like, why are I meeting all these people from Connecticut? And I'm like, God, I have to go back to Connecticut. And it was just like random people somewhere. Oh, where are you from? Connecticut. I'm like, okay, where are you from? Connecticut. Oh, where are you from? It just one of my clients is like, oh, I love working with you, but guess what? I got to move home. I said, where's home? Connecticut. I'm like, really? It was just unbelievable. It was just like, so those are the synchronicity. Remember the spirits. I teach it, the synchronicity and the signs. Wow. And then that was my purpose and present. But so when you work with the universe, you ask, you co-create. And then sometimes when things aren't right, you think it's right. Like I have clients who are like, oh, this guy's right for me. And I'm like, I don't think so. Because I can, now that I'm connected to vibes, I feel vibes really strongly. I was like, I don't know, my stomach's getting tight. Doesn't feel right. Oh no, he's right. He's this, he's rich, he's this and that. And I said, I think he's taking you off your path. So I said, why don't you ask? I helped them co-create. I said, why don't you ask? So one of my clients, she's like, this guy's great. She asked, she goes, show me who he really is, universe, God. And all of a sudden his phone fell and it said wife. And the phone, she was dating him for 6 months. He was married. And she goes, I had no clue. It's like his phone said wife, like she saw it. And she's like, I cannot believe it. I said, you asked. The universe will protect you. It will teach you. And she said, is this of my higher calling? Or sometimes they get a strong no. Like I had a client that said, I really want to work at this job. It's really good. And every time she went there, she felt sick to her stomach. I said, listen to that. She goes, oh, but they're paying me $75,000. And she was so much more than I was making before at 50. When again, your stomach dropped. When again, she got a headache. Then she said, I was like, those are warnings. That's your chakra energy telling you no. So then she went, and then the woman was so nice in the interview. But then once she got there, she was so mean. Within 2 months, she had to leave. She was in the ER, like everything. I was like, you got to trust. You ask and you'll get, she got the answer, but she didn't listen. So like you said before, you got to trust, you got to listen. Universe will help you. That's how you co-create.
We're going to take our, absolutely. We're going to take our final break, unfortunately. And I've been letting it go because I'm just delighted. Cool. I'm loving this conversation. You're such a fantastic guest. I really appreciate it. What a pleasure to meet you. We're going to take our final break and we'll come back with the last segment with Carolyn Coleridge. We'll be right back.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Perficio. Do you know why most wealthy people are that way? It's because they think like wealthy people, and a fool and his money are soon parted. Visit www.perficio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can actually transfer the wealth mentality into your own brain, and you will think wealth.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petroza, and the delightful Carolyn Coleridge. I'm having such a great time in speaking with her. I'm letting it go overtime because it's so great. And I had to, finally get a little masculine with myself and say, Carolyn, hold on, let me commercial break. And because it's such a great discussion, you're just illuminating great stuff, and I love you talking about the near-death experience that you had and in synchronizing with the universe. It reminded me of when I read Conversations with God in the 90s, which was one of the greatest books, self-help books I've ever read.
I love him.
For those, what's that?
Donald Neil Walsh. I love him.
Yeah.
I have many of his books.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Walsh contends that he had his conversations with God, and I don't dispute it.
And he was homeless. He was homeless. It was on the street for one point.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I've been homeless too. When I become the next
Wow.
Steve Jobs, then they'll be talking about that story for me. But in this book, Walsh has conversations with God, and then like it's a wonderful whole bunch of conversations, and God, and Walsh goes to God, how come my life sucks, and God will say, well, are you ready for it to not suck? It's up to
chills.
you. Yeah, you're the one made it suck, man. That was what you were putting out. I'm gonna give you what you want. You gotta listen, right? You gotta see, you see the signs. You can't reject the signs.
It's universal, and you know what? The thing is about like a lot of the spiritual gifts come through humility, and being homeless gives you, when you're in a humility state, that opens up higher consciousness. People don't realize that. They judge people, but they don't realize those are the spiritual nutrients to higher consciousness. Like dying, when I almost died in the hospital, by the way, I had a $30,000 bill, and I was a social worker, because it was a long story. It's messy. It's in my book, but that humbled me. And then I had to go work in the hospital and try to help other people that were almost being killed by air. It was a hospital error. So, I mean, a lot of these humility, grace, these are gifts. These are gifts. These are nutrients. Higher, people don't realize when people have higher consciousness, they've usually been to hell and back in many ways,
Yeah.
And
I have been homeless in Los Angeles, by the way.
Wow, very
So,
tough place.
let me ask my final question, Carolyn. How do you ascend your soul?
Oh, I love that question. Whew, awesome questions. It's interesting because I wasn't into ascension, and then a person who it's really in this is a spirit, an ascended master came to me in a dream. Well, one time Paramahansa Yogananda came to me, and then this Serapis Bey came to me, and he's all into ascension. And I feel like there's many, I don't know if people believe or not, but this is a lot of where I get the teachings from, higher beings that come. If we're open, we can connect to angels and ancestors and different things. It's just, vibration. You ascend by doing what's right. You ascend by listening to your inner intuition. You ascend by helping others, You ascend by not judging. You ascend by doing your purpose, whatever your gifts are. You have to open your present. That's why mindfulness is so big, because mindfulness is all about being present. In the present moment, our presence, the spirit of the divine, of the universe, will come to us. And that presence is, again, that presence is a gift that you open up. And there's so many people have gifts. We're like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that. Every gift is precious to the divine. And we all have to express it. If it's helping, if it's teaching, if it's counseling, if it's cleaning the streets, I don't care. It's just about being, that's humility again. Some of the, the more brilliant people, I talk to people that are, my grandmother was cleaning houses, but she had a lot of wisdom, 4th grade education. You'd be surprised when people are in humble positions, what they learn. So how do you ascend your soul is you do what you're here to do. You do it with dignity and grace. You can forgive, giving the energy back, and sometimes teaching people. Sometimes forgiving is not like, oh, I forgive you. No, it's like saying that was wrong. You shouldn't have done that, but I'm not going to let that bother me. Okay. To me, it's like give the energy back to the person, because that was their lesson, not always yours. You also help the vulnerable, children, animals, elderly, people that have disability issues or whatever, those are very sacred jobs. We help one another. We realize that we're really all one. And then also honor the divine, honor the universal wisdom. If the universe says, don't go, don't go. You got to trust and have faith. And faith is like not looking, faith is really blind. Walk by faith and not by sight. When I was in New York City at Columbia, I would be sorry, bitching about things like it's so expensive, this and that. And every time I'm in the top social work school, and I was working, it was just a lot, it was difficult. And what happened, every time I would complain, I would see a blind person. And I was like, they are walking by faith in New York City, getting on the subway, not getting hit by a cab, cabs, and trusting people to help them. How much that takes a lot of strength. And I was like, walk by faith and not by sight. And then I would stop the moaning and I would go back to center. I am blessed. I'm in gratitude. Being gratitude, that's a higher consciousness for the little things you have. having a place to live, having, income, having the knowledge of this, what we're talking about. When people like meet you, your clients, they should be in gratitude because you've been someplace and then you're bringing them out. It's the higher beings that bring people from the darkness into the light. That's higher gifts from the street to the home, all that stuff. Don't judge. People cannot judge. You don't know who souls really are. But that's how you ascend, is that you trust the universal principles that there, you honor them, you listen to your inner wisdom, you open your presence, you help the vulnerable, you are in gratitude, and you will be graced.
I totally concur. I totally concur. I've been working on Proficio, this app, which I profess is going to revolutionize self-help. I've been working on it 8 years, Carolyn. 4 years of pre-development. We formed the company 4 years ago. We were undercapitalized. We run out of funding, and we're still struggling to launch. We're going to launch imminently. So it's been 4 years of another 4 years of development. Why have I never given up? Which I've given up on many things in my life. Because this is my purpose. This is my purpose. And so the sacrifices I make joyfully. Do I get frustrated? Yes. Do I get disappointed? Do I get anguished? Yes. But because it's my purpose, I keep going and I do it with a smile on my face. And I love it. And I know this is the thing that I'm here to do. And so because of it, I love it. I love it. It's not even arduous. Yeah, I have those feelings I just described because I'm human and because you have ups and downs. You have to persevere to succeed. But purpose is the game changer. That makes the difference. I totally agree with you.
And the number 8 is sacred because 8 is the infinity symbol, as above,
yes,
down below. Yes. So, and when I was moving here, I kept seeing 8s everywhere. And I moved to like Bloomfield. It's like 602. It's anyways, the number comes to 8. And I saw 8s everywhere. And I was as above, doing your higher purpose. You see 8, and 8 is the number of abundance too, but as above, so below. And 8 is a infinity symbol, is a symbol of my ascended master, Serapis Bane, who came to me and started teaching me all this stuff. So,
Carolyn, quite sincerely, you have been one of the most wonderful guests I've had on this podcast. I mean that sincerely. I really appreciate it. Do you have any final remarks for the audience?
No, I enjoyed being here. We'll just honor your spirit. My book is on Amazon, and I will, if somebody, contacts me, I'll give one away free, and, to help them, on their path. And I do have regular, Zoom calls and meditation. Follow me on Instagram, Intuitive Solutions. That was my business here. I'm opening up a business. If you're in Connecticut, come see me, Conscious Creations. We have a grand opening, a little opening on this Saturday, July 30th. 1 to 12 to 4. You come meet me. We're going to meditate at 3:30. I think meditation is really key, and I'm really honored to be here because we really synchronize. We're on the same page. This is, this is really cool, and I think the universe set us up together.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so say what that website is once again.
Oh, my website, my Instagram is Intuitive Solutions _Solution instead of solutions.
That's Instagram.
And then Intuitive Soul Healing is my website. And again, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a therapist, and I do spiritual counseling more so now, but I do readings and healings. I do remote healings too. During COVID, that really picked up, sending energy with the Holy Spirit.
Great. So you listening audience, go to our website if you're interested in any of the things that we talked about, and we talked about a lot. But she's a healer, she's a therapist, she's an energy worker. Great stuff. Look for her book on Amazon, which is Honor Your Soul.
Honor Your Spirit.
Honor Your
and then I have another book, Soul Wisdom. Yeah, there too. It's just it's a book of all my newsletters. Yeah.
Carolyn Coleridge, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. God bless you. I've really been delighted, and thank you for your time.
Tony, it was an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast, where insights, attitudes, and methods for success get illuminated. Learn what leaders and change workers have done and are doing now to create magnificent futures. Remember to visit our website at self-helpcoaching.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Self-Help Coaching Podcast.